Imagine being buried thousands of miles away from your home in another country and forgotten for 100 years.
In tonight's zevely-zone, Jeff's at Fort Rosecrans National Cemetery at the grave of the unknown soldier.
Ian McIntosh, a hobby historian living with multiple sclerosis,
I'm unsteady.
happened upon this grave.
His family did not know he was here.
Interested in World War I,
His name is James Frederick Hines, but they called him Freddie.
the words British Navy caught his eye.
I was kind of curious why a Irish World War I British sailor would be buried here in San Diego.
Ian is a retired sheriff's detention sergeant who knows how to work a case, so he pulled the sailor's death certificate.
When it said family members, next of kin, it kept saying unknown. That was, to me, what was the saddest part.
Ian dug into old newspapers and even asked his wife for help.
Are you serious? He goes, yeah, can you help me go find the grave?
One clue led to another, and they learned that after the war, Freddie Hines contracted the Spanish flu while taking an around-the-world cruise.
When the ship pulled into San Diego, they sent him to the U.S. Naval Hospital. He died 2 days later. The Royal Navy told the United States to just bury him here. So that's what they did in 1919. And he's been here virtually forgotten this whole time.
Ian and Juana are taking this act of goodwill one step further. In fact, they're taking it across the pond to Ireland, where they'll meet the relatives of Freddie Hines this summer. A century later, one last message for our allies.
Just that they shouldn't worry about him.
This Memorial Day, American flags will be flanked
Don't worry, Freddie. I got you. You're not forgotten.
by a royal salute to Freddie.
I cared about him and about his life. And I didn't want him to be here forgotten exactly 100 years ago.
Ian says they're all heroes.
None of them should be forgotten.
Leave it to a former jailer to find the key that unlocked the past.
My final case, and I solved it.
In the zevely-zone, Jeff Zevely, News 8.
Ian McIntosh found Hines's relatives on Facebook, and he plans on commemorating the grave with a British flag every Memorial Day.